Welcome back to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm your host, Rob Dew. Our next guest has spent the better half of this past decade making 3 documentaries now on a plant. That's right. Our next guest is Kevin Booth. He's a filmmaker originally from Austin, Texas. I met him many years ago. And you may have seen American Drug War. Alex was in that one. We used to sell it here. In fact, we still sell it here at the InfoWars store. And then How Weed Won the West, which we also sold here at the InfoWars store. And now he's back with American Drug War 2 that is just now going into its release stages. And he's here to tell us all about that. We're going to play some clips. Very interesting film, a lot different than the first one, but also some same themes still going through it. We turn now to Kevin Booth. Kevin, how are you doing today?
Doing really good. How's it going back there in Austin? I miss you guys. I miss the whole info crew.
Oh yeah, it's doing great. We're humming along. We got a new studio we're actually building, and things are really humming along. And you are taking that iconic Iwo Jima photograph, having the guys planting a pot leaf in the ground, and coming out with American Drug War 2: Cannabis Destiny. Why don't you tell us about it? Tell us a little bit about the film. What is different in this one than the first American Drug War?
Well, the first American Drug War is not really focused around marijuana so much as the drug war from A to Z. I intended for the first American Drug War not to really have a sequel when I made it. I thought that was going to be a one-time deal, so it was not made with the intentions of doing any type of a follow-up. So the first American Drug War is basically covers everything from the crack epidemic, and we focus in on a guy named Freeway Ricky Ross, who I know has been a guest on Alex's show. Who I've helped getting out of prison in 2009, who's been accused of creating the crack epidemic, and it was found out that all of his cocaine was coming from a CIA connection, and it was all tied back into Iran-Contra, and Sally Castillo, another guest that you've had on many times, is connected with that story. We go into talking about the crystal meth epidemic. We go into private prisons. We visit Joe Arpaio in Phoenix, Arizona. We visited Tommy Chong while he was serving time in a privately owned prison for selling glass, not for selling marijuana, but for having his face on glass products that he was set up for, that his son was selling over the internet. And we touch upon medical marijuana, but it was more just about how the money flows and just basically the whole scam of the drug war taking place in America that most people really have forgotten about, that's going on, and how this is really the longest running, most costly war in American history, and focusing on the aspect that there never really will be any type of liberty as long as the government can control what we put into our own bodies. Exactly.
And going back with Tommy Chong, he was set up by the government. They had actually sent an informant in to ship the glass out to a state that couldn't get it. I think it was Pennsylvania.
Right.
So they got him for that, which he didn't even commit the crime. And what was he doing? He was selling glass. And then this whole drug war thing, I remember in the 80s, you were growing up in the 80s, a little older than me, but you remember those ads, you know, Nancy Reagan sitting there, say no to drugs, this is your brain on drugs. That was where the PR campaign really kicked into high gear, because they saw people were using drugs as a form of alternative consciousness. And once you go there into that realm, well, then you start questioning other things. If they're telling me drugs are bad, but I take a few, or I may smoke a little pot or do something else, you know, some hard drugs are bad, but there's a lot out there that's not as bad as they say it is, and they overblow that. And what's it for? It is to fill up prisons. It is to get people into the system. It is to take away your freedom. It has nothing to do with the drug or how it affects your body. We know that. The government doesn't care about how we are and how our health is. You know, that's why they're trying to shove the insurance companies down our throat.
It's pretty obvious. Yeah, I mean, with Tommy Chong, it was no irony that they called it Operation Pipe Dream, named after a Cheech and Chong movie. They actually went as far as to plant a phony employee in his company. They had a really successful glass blowing company out here on the West Coast selling glass products all over the United States. And like you said, they placed an order in a county in Pennsylvania where it's illegal to ship glass products or any kind of head shop type products into. and everybody at the company refused to ship the order, and so the DEA actually had to plant a phony employee into their company in order to fulfill the order. And so, you know, even on the most basic level, Tommy Chong or his son never really did anything wrong. They were even respecting like the ridiculous laws of this one county in Pennsylvania, and they had to be completely tricked. You can't even call it tricking. It's just, you know, it was just a setup.
It was a setup,
straight across, but it's not even a trick. In order to capture Tommy and put him in jail to make a big spectacle out of it. And this is, you know, this is in the days of John Ashcroft and following 9/11 and all the hoopla of, you know, if you buy drugs, you support terrorism, and their continued advance. And where they really got stupid is trying to keep marijuana in the same category with crack cocaine and PCP and crystal meth. And, you know, if they hadn't done that, maybe they would have gotten away with this drug war scam. But the fact that they've continuously tried to group marijuana in with these scourge drugs, it just didn't work. And the people never bought it, and the people aren't buying it, and the people are waking up. And not only has the people woken up, but it's gone so far now is that people are not only realizing that marijuana is not bad for you, but that it's actually really good for you on many levels. And I'm not talking about kids should be out there getting stoned every day. I'm talking about new scientific research being done, finding out that higher levels of cannabinoids in our body acts as a natural antidepressant, neuroprotectant, anti-inflammatory, and actually can help kill cancer cells in many cases. And that's where the new film takes us into the future. And the new film is not at all about getting stoned or, you know, hanging out and smoking giant bong hits all night. There's nothing wrong with that. We're all for it if that's what you want to do. But this new film is more about the leading edge, medical, cutting edge battle out there of companies trying to get various aspects of marijuana through the FDA process.
Right, and I like how you take that iconic image of the I think it was 4 or 5 Marines planting that flag in Iwo Jima, one of which died as an alcoholic in a ditch. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know. No, I did not know
Hayes. That was there's a Johnny Cash song called "Drunken Ira Hayes" or "The Ballad of Ira Hayes."
Oh my God!
And he was an American Indian who went off to war, fought. He was one of the guys raising that flag, and then he comes back home and starts drinking heavily, and he ends up dying in a ditch. So you've got that iconic image, and the image that they were trying to say is this is freedom right here. And what you've taken that image and kind of repossessed it, of them planting the weed plant in there, the cannabis plant into the ground, saying this is freedom. This is how this plant here could literally change the way we do things in our country, and not just talk about smoking it. And when you talk about hemp, you go into all the different things that hemp can be made into. Oil, you know, diesel oil. I think it was the guy who invented the diesel engine wanted to run it on hemp oil.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize is that America is the only industrialized country on planet Earth that does not allow farmers to grow hemp. Now, I heard that's just recently changing, or there's some law that just changed in Kentucky since we actually put the movie out, ironically, or that would have been in there. But companies, we profile a company in the movie called Dr. Bronner's Magical Soap Company, and they have to buy literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not almost $1 million worth of hemp seed oil from Canadian companies, and other companies in America are having to get their hemp products from Chinese companies. So farmers in Canada and even China are making huge money growing hemp, while American companies can produce and sell hemp-based products. They're not allowed to grow it. And so China is actually racing way ahead. So this has nothing to do with drugs or getting high. Hemp has absolutely no psychoactive properties to it. And if this has nothing to do with drugs or getting high, but any like freedom-loving American that's mad about what's happening in our society should be outraged by the fact that our government is allowing China to race ahead of us in this whole hemp revolution that's taking place globally.
And even if you're not a freedom-loving American, even if you're a crotchety old Fox News watching conservative, do you want to pay to put hippies in jail and give them 3 meals a day? Do you want that coming out of your taxes? That's my message to those people. Because you're either for freedom or you're for lower taxes, and you know that whole surveillance state that we basically fund every day every time we pay our taxes, every year, we fund putting people in prison, giving them 3 meals a day, paying somebody to watch them, paying for the walls to be built around them. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And these private prison companies and the unions and the police unions, like, well, we're going to go to a clip that talks about this in a second, how they're all vested in this drug war. They need this drug war to create these positions that don't produce anything of value other than keeping people surveilled and controlled.
And you talk about these crotchety old people, and the irony is that really the more and more you watch Fox News these days, they are having more pro-marijuana stories on, and more conservative people, even like some of my very highly conservative cousins who live in the Bible Belt, who have been very anti-marijuana my whole life, are finally coming around and seeing the devastation that taking 10 Motrin a day can do to grandma, or taking like 10 Tylenols a day does to grandpa, or his arthritis medication or whatever, and realizing that there's alternatives out there, and these alternatives aren't some new wacky new age concept. These alternatives were what everybody was using less than 100 years ago, that was in every single doctor's little black kit less than 100 years ago, until John D. Rockefeller came through and shifted the entire paradigm of the American pharmacopoeia into petroleum-based, away from plant-based.
Exactly. And in fact, let's go to that clip first. You sent us some clips, some exclusive clips from the film American Drug War II, Cannabis Destiny, and this first one's about a young boy named Cash Hyde, who had cancer. His parents were watching him die. His mom was a nurse, and the chemo wasn't helping. All the things that the Rockefeller-educated doctors couldn't help their son. So what they started doing was secretly injecting him with hemp oil. And do you have anything else to add before we go to this clip?
Well, this is a very potent cannabis oil that has been reinvented by a man named Rick Simpson in Canada, and he's become very famous on the internet if you search Phoenix Tears or Rick Simpson oil. And this guy in Canada several years ago created this by upping an old recipe for cannabis oil. It does have a lot of THC, and it's a very high dose of THC. And I need to add in there that our own government applied for the patent and obtained the patent for this in 2003. So for anybody out there rolling their eyes, a conspiracy stoner, just search it. The government got the patent on this. So while the government is still arresting 800,000 people a year, they're working on the medical basics of this. So it's all just a scam. And so this is about the cannabis oil that's curing cancer all over the world.
All right, we're going to go down to this clip, and we got a lot more to show you, so just stay tuned for that.
Without a single reported overdose death to this day, the worry of having dangerous drug interactions with cannabis is far less than with any other conventional drug.
Parents call me all the time and say, God, Mike, where do I start at? I say, you start with putting the oil in the kid. Just get it in them and go from there. And you're giving these patients a neurological medicine. If you look at who's studying cannabis oil, it's neuroscientists every time. It's neurologically a godsend. They can't replicate it. They're amazed by it. So when you start giving a patient this medicine, you're going to notice eye movement changes. You're going to notice drowsiness. You're going to notice cotton mouth. You're going to notice, hunger stimulation. You're going to notice all this stuff, and it's all good.
2 years ago, little Cash Hyde was diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer. He endured bouts of chemo that made him sick, made him ill. He didn't eat for 40 days and was vomiting severely. As his parents watched helplessly, as many have, they made a crucial decision. They asked doctors to take Cash off his anti-nausea and his pain medication and secretly gave him marijuana oil, cannabis oil made from marijuana. What they did was illegal. In addition, they didn't tell his doctors. Today, 3-year-old Cash is in remission and doing well. Callie, let me talk to you. You're an RN, right?
Yeah, this is Callie.
Okay, Callie, do you understand my concerns about people coming into the hospital and just administering substances, illicit or illicit, without the team's involvement? You know what I mean? You've worked in hospitals. It can really make things unravel if the team is not there taking care of the patient.
I do understand the controversy with, coming in and giving our son, cannabis. But, he was laying there dying, shaking, shivering. His skin looked peeling. He was vomiting every 2 hours. He was vomiting. You know, he couldn't.
Let me ask the question, Callie. I get it. Let me ask the question a different way. Let's say you had medication XYZ and it's legal, and you describe that same scene to us. You just bring that in from the outside and give it because you wanted your child better no matter what. You'd go to any length, even if it means upsetting how a hospital functions. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Hold on one second, Bob. You've been sitting here listening to this.
Doctors they're killing our children.
Hold on.
The most therapy
we weren't there. Listen. People are trying to do their job and the child is better because of proton beam and chemotherapy. We know that too because that's what they could expect. Yes, and all this other stuff made him sick.
Wow. There you have Dr. Drew, who goes around trying to help people with his therapy and basically apologizing for the doctors, saying, hey, no. Hemp or this cannabis oil did not help your son. It was the chemotherapy. It was the photon radiation that we shot him with that helped him. As he was laying there dying, the parents switched it secretly, didn't tell the hospital, and he was more concerned with hospital procedure than he was with the health of their son. Isn't that disgusting?
It's like, oh my God, what will happen if people like actually try to save their own loved ones? You know, it's the idea, and I've had plenty of loved ones die in the hospital before, and there really is this sense of when you have like this one day where some doctor who barely speaks English, I hate to say that, comes in there and basically, well, your mom's going to die. And you're going, well, what can we do? And they're just like, it's out of our hands. It's in God's hands now. Well, that's great. But still, what can we do? And we're really just taught to accept that when the man with the white lab coat walks in there and tells you that so-and-so is going to pass away, there's nothing we can do about that. You're just supposed to accept that. And if you don't accept that, then you're some sort of a kook, and it's disrespectful, and and now you're going off on some new agey tangent here. Except now in this instance, a little boy pulls out of a coma and starts eating again, and of course they have to say it's some sort of a miracle from all their prayers. They will not admit that cannabis had anything to do with it.
It was the insecticide we injected into him what cured him. I mean, if people just want to look up what chemotherapy is, I mean, and I had a friend who died from cancer back in '09, and they couldn't get the hemp oil legally here like you can in California, and her boyfriend had to make it and give it to her, and she was also doing chemotherapy, and she didn't make it. But I think had she been able to get a steady supply and start the treatment earlier, they kind of waited till after the chemotherapy started to do this, maybe she would still be around today. I mean, it's really sad to see people out there across the country who are dying from cancer and can't get access to alternative treatments other than, photon radiation or chemotherapy or, any other weird drug that they want to make that would basically kill. It basically kills you. What more is there to say about that?
And it's important to note that the chemotherapies that they inject into the cash, and most people are drugs that were patented back in the 60s and 70s, and so they don't even have like new. If I was going to get chemotherapy, I'd want to think that they're going to walk in there going like, hey, this is like something they just invented a year ago. That's this top leading thing from all these years of research. And where does all this money from all this so-called cancer research going when they're using chemotherapy that the same exact chemicals from the 70s? So where's all this research money going? It's crazy. The one thing I wanted to say is that, and I understand what you're saying, but there are a lot of people in the marijuana movement would call you out on the difference between saying hemp or cannabis. Really, when you say hemp, you're talking about the non-psychoactive cousin that people are using for the fiber and the fuel and all that. And then cannabis represents, the psychoactive THC, CBD cousin of that. Now, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that will have like a big hissy fit over these little things.
Let me clear it up real quick. We wrote the Declaration of Independence on hemp. Cheech and Chong smoke cannabis. Right? Is that it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I got it. All right. Well, hey, let's go to another clip. This is talking about how the strength in the pot from the 60s and 70s is not what people are smoking now. It has been engineered by growers mainly to just make people get higher off of it instead of all these other things that hemp can do other than, or I'm sorry, cannabis can do other than just get high, you know, the other medical treatments, the other psychoactive treatments. But what we're seeing is basically a funnel effect from people just wanting to get high. This is the market for it, so people are engineering it to make you more high.
The old saying, "Don't mess with Mother Nature," has never been truer because due to the government's misguided attempt at prohibiting mankind to plant, nature ironically made the plant stronger than ever. However, because of years of prohibition, breeders have only sought to increase THC levels in order to fulfill the sole black market need of getting people stoned, thereby ignoring all other potential compounds.
This is not your Woodstock weed. The marijuana of today is between 5 and 6 times or more potent than the marijuana of maybe my parents' generation. We're still trying to figure out why more people are going to treatment. Non-criminal justice referrals to treatment. In other words, on their own, themselves or their family member told a counselor that the reason they are in treatment is because of marijuana.
I mean, I work at San Francisco General for 30 years, and every day I admit patients who are ravaged by abusive substances. Crack cocaine, heroin, tobacco, alcohol, sugar, you know. I never have admitted a patient in my life with a marijuana excess problem.
What science clearly shows, and what most people certainly know who use cannabis, is that you take enough to achieve a certain level and not more. It's not like cocaine where you just keep doing it because you become a fiend. You're looking to change your body's biochemistry in a way that you feel is beneficial, and which science basically shows is beneficial because of its anti-aging properties. So when someone is using stronger cannabis, if they're smoking it, that means they smoke less, which is actually better.
Unlike opiates, where there are receptors on the brainstem that is the part of the body where regulates respiration and breathing, there are no cannabinoid receptors on the brainstem, so you can't really suppress your breathing to the point where you're going to kill yourself.
Recently, researchers have uncovered ancient strains in Spain that contain several highly beneficial cannabinoids that were almost driven extinct due to the common black market THC cannabis.
I'd be very curious as to what the profile of this plant was after 34 million years of evolution.
So, Kevin, after putting this movie together, I mean, what do you think? What are the other, I guess, benefits of cannabis other than getting high? What and using it, you know, to cure you from cancer? You know, what else can it do?
Well, I mean, basically, our government has acquired the patent for it as an anti-inflammatory and a neuroprotectant, and it basically, a lot of people out there that are in the know in this movement, a lot of these doctors I know are now just ingesting a certain amount of cannabinoids every day, just as the ultimate health preventative. No different than taking fish oil tablets every day or anything else. It's just a health preventative. And our very own government is recommending a dose as high as 600 milligrams a day of this, which, if you were going to break that down into stoner terms, you'd have to smoke something like 60 joints a day of super powerful marijuana in order to achieve that level, which obviously no one's going to do. And the thing is that most people, okay, there are a lot of kids out there that just want to get high. That's fine, just like anything else. Just like when prohibition of alcohol ended, a lot of people just wanted to get drunk, and they got drunk no matter whether it was against the law or not. That's beside the point. It's beside the point in this whole argument. There's a lot of people out there that want to be clear-headed. You know, I myself, I'm getting older. I don't really like being stoned anymore. It does make me a little paranoid. It makes me too introspective. I mean, maybe occasionally, once a month at a party or something like that. Yes, but on a day-to-day basis, knowing that this can actually help with aging, this helps keep cancer from happening. I mean, they did an incredible study out there at Dr. Tashkin with over 50,000 people that they studied over 10 years into 3 groups. Group number 1 smoked cigarettes. Group number 2 smoked only marijuana. Group number 3 smoked nothing. This is 50,000 people over 10 years. Pretty healthy study. Well, as it turns out, the people that smoked nothing had a higher cancer rate than the people that smoked only marijuana. And what this study showed is that the people that smoked marijuana had a lower cancer rate than the cigarette smokers and the non-smokers, period, proving that having a raised cannabinoid level in your blood is actually beneficial to you. Now, once again, this isn't saying we want people out there and kids to go get stoned. Nobody thinks kids should smoke. I don't think kids should smoke anything. I think smoking is bad for you. Inhaling, burning things in your lungs is bad for you. But what we're trying to show in this film is that there's a lot of other ways to consume the plant, and really burning the plant is just the man-made construct. We go into this whole chapter about how people are now juicing the plant here in California. And you got to leave it to California to always come up with the wacky trends. And so people juicing the marijuana plant, well, most people would see that and go, oh my God, it must make you crazy high. Well, the truth is that it doesn't. It's like drinking wheatgrass juice. And you have to burn the plant, you have to heat the plant in order for it to make you high. And that the plant is just a vegetable. If you treat the cannabis plant as a vegetable, it actually doesn't make you high, crazy enough. If you just took a fresh bud and just ate it, it really doesn't make you that high.
And what's crazy is we could grow this in our backyards, we could grow this on our rooftops, we could grow this anywhere. It grows like a weed. Literally.
Yeah, and basically, and what we're trying to show in that last clip is like one of the, it's funny as we hear the death rattle of the prohibitionists, like, coming around. It was like the one of the last death rattles that they've finally given up on was the whole gateway theory. That was like, if you smoke marijuana, it leads to harder drugs. Well, so many people have disproven that alcohol is the true gateway drug.
Hey, if you drink water, it could lead to doing harder drugs. Do you know that?
And what's ironic about that is my older brother Kurt, who is 9 years older than me, is a schizophrenic. He died from a seizure, but he actually had a very rare disease called polydipsia, and he actually did overdose from drinking too much water. Very, very rare thing. Look it up, polydipsia. So it's crazy. So, but this whole argument now since the whole gateway theory, they've given up on the gateway theory. Now the one that the prohibitionists are still fighting with is that this new marijuana out there, this isn't your parents' Woodstock marijuana anymore. This new marijuana is very powerful. It's like tripping on acid. It's very dangerous, and that's why it should be against the law, and you should be very concerned. And they're trying to like throw this scare out there. So because we have all these like kind of people from the 60s that are now getting older now, and they're kind of going, yeah, marijuana's not so bad. I don't know if my kids like take a few hits of that. Well, they're trying to scare all those people into going, well, but this isn't the pot you smoke. This is this new dangerous thing. And you talk to people that actually they used to smoke pot back in the 60s and 70s, and they really do. They believe it. They believe the propaganda of, well, I've heard this new marijuana is just, so powerful. It's like horse tranquilizers and stuff. Like, no, it's not. It really, and the truth of the matter is that if you believe smoking something is bad for you, which is the basic argument here, that the smoking is what's bad for you, that the stronger it is, the less you smoke. And so it's really no different than the difference between buying a light beer versus Everclear. And why should we outlaw alcohol because now you can buy Everclear or moonshine that's a higher? It doesn't make any sense. It's like that's their argument, because now there's stronger forms. It's just another ridiculous last gasp of these people trying to keep this thing going. It's another mind control tactic that they're using. The same thing as, if you buy pot, you're funding terrorism. When you look at it, basically, when you buy pot, you're funding the U.S. government who ships it in. And in fact, the next clip we're going to go to, you have a clip in here. It's called Funding the Cartels. And this has to do with one of the pilots you interviewed who says, hey, I flew 800 pounds. Where did that 100 pounds go? And they go, oh, we call that leakage. Yeah, that's a good one. So you're about to learn what leakage is, people out there. This is how the drugs get to the streets. And it's not Freeway Ricky Ross carting it in with his armada of planes and ships. No, and building underground tunnels. No, he's not doing it. It's other people bringing it in, and the ones that get it through are the ones that have the blessing from the government. We go now to that clip.
There are only 3 groups of which I'm aware that are very interested in keeping marijuana illegal. They're the police. A lot of people know about them. And that tends to take the form of chiefs of police, police unions trying to hold on to overtime pay, prisons, private prison industry. The other is cartels, because cartels make 70% of their profits from marijuana sales alone.
I was lucky enough to cross the bridge into Juarez with veteran journalists Brent and Craig Renault, who report for the New York Times.
The battle between the police and the cartels is really heated up, and the cartels are saying they're going to kill 1 police officer every day. And in the last month and a half, they have killed about 19 local police officers here. And just last night in this area, 2 more were killed.
The brutally poor circumstances of Juarez make many of the children perfect marks for cartel recruitment.
If you don't want to go into the cartel, they won't force you. They like for you to go by yourself. Because if they force you, you can go and tell the police and they will help you sometimes. But if you go by yourself, they will ask you to do anything and you will do it.
And they give you a transponder number to squawk that's a little off the norm. And so when ATC, Air Traffic Control, sees you going across the border, they go, oh, that guy's with the cops, you know? And they call off everybody. And they let us go. And that's how a lot of drugs came in. Like the 800 and almost 50 pounds of cocaine that I flew turned into 750 pounds. And I asked the guy that was in charge of the cops, what happened to that 100 pounds? And he told me, he said, oh, that's leakage. Leakage? And he says, yeah, what we do is we take a little bit off the top, you know, we can sell it and arrest the guys, or we can sell it and see where it goes, you know, and track it. Like I said, walk, kind of like Fast and Furious. Same thing.
All right, so now you know what leakage is out there. It's not just something that happens to you personally when you're going to the bathroom. It's actually a term the cops use when they take a little bit off the top, a little bit more for Santa Claus, a little bit more for Santa Claus, if you catch my drift with the Cheech and Chong reference. So talk a little bit, you went to Juarez actually, and
yes.
You know, they're killing cops there. It's basically creating, you know, the prohibition in the United States is creating the problem there, the problems that we see.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely insane. And the focus of American Drug War II is really about how the drug war is affecting children. And it takes a much more personal look than the first drug war film. And it's not like you don't need to watch the first drug war film to watch the second one. It's not a sequel based on that type of an idea. They both sit independently of each other. And the one thing we wanted to show, well, the 2 things actually, is one, how all the Mexican marijuana now is mostly flooding in through Texas and Arizona, because in California, who's going to buy Mexican marijuana? There's no reason. There's so much good marijuana in California that all the billions of dollars of marijuana coming up through Mexico is now funneling through Texas and places like Juarez and creating this war zone there. And they're saying that as much as 70% of the cartel's profit is still from marijuana. Now, the people arguing this will say, well, if we take marijuana away from them, they're just going to do something else. And that they say that we have a defeatist attitude by wanting to legalize drugs. So you want to talk about a defeatist attitude by saying, like, if we take marijuana from the cartels, they're just going to shift to something else? That's defeatist, in my opinion. You know, like, let them shift to something else. Why does it have to be marijuana? Oh, because that's what helps you guys, obviously.
Right.
But the focus is that we're showing that there's neighborhoods in Juarez, Mexico, where you can go, and I could go there, and I could recruit a little 14-year-old boy to kill you for as little as $40. And that's just no different than going to the Home Depot and hiring someone to come, you know, work on your yard for the day or anything like that. You can go and hire kids to commit murder for $40 a pop in this neighborhood that we went to.
And it's because of the prohibition that we have. I mean, that's a result of it.
Yeah, it's just all an endless turf war. That's all it is. I mean, it basically Juarez is just no different than a giant FedEx. It's like FedEx versus UPS shipping route, and that's just one of the corridors that all of these shipping companies are fighting to keep control over. And so it's all about just, you know, killing each other's enemies and killing off the competition. If American corporations were allowed to kill people, oh, I guess they already do, but if they were able to, just like they would, you know, hire little Mexican kids to do it for $40 a pop, it'd be a lot cheaper, right?
Yeah.
And the other
we outsource to Mexico anyway. Why not?
Yeah, what's the difference? Yeah. And you know, and the other thing we talk about too in that clip was this thing called Gringo Pass, which I think is a great name for that. That could be a focus of an entire film on its own, with the pilot Greg Yoakum, who flew for the cartels. And I think it's just so fascinating to know that that's basically how they worked it. They would just give the pilots a transponder number and a route, and just say, follow this route, use this transponder number, and you're gonna be just fine. And of course they will, and that's how they control the whole deal.
Yeah, that is sick. The way our country has turned it in, and it's the black ops version of our country, has turned it into a profit center to fund their operations. It's really disgusting. I mean, we almost got to some of that in the 80s with Iran-Contra, but I don't think we ever are really going to get the full story. People like Gary Webb have been killed trying to tell that story. And Sully Castillo's been harassed telling that story. I've read his book, Powder Burns. I mean, incredible. The amount of manpower and money we would spend going down there, terrorizing farmers and just, peasant people who weren't part of this drug thing. They were just, growing a crop. And then you see our troops going in Afghanistan and protecting the farmers there, bringing them fertilizer, bringing them seeds, and protecting these shipments. And, they go, well, it grinds on our gut, but it's just something we have to do. I mean, Geraldo's done specials on this. And at the end of the day, who's left holding the bag? It's the guy buying it from the dealer on the street who gets popped and gets thrown into the system and becomes a cog in that wheel. I want to go to one more clip, and this has to do with your first foster daughter, Stephanie. And, this is kind of where the film takes a turn. You go from talking about cannabis to these pharmaceutical drugs and how they're being prescribed to these kids that are in foster care, because when you prescribe them, you get more money. So let's go to that clip now.
A new report by our own government's Office of Accountability shows that children in foster care are 13 times more likely to be prescribed mind-altering drugs.
We don't drug our children. We raise our children and nurture them and take care of them. But the institutions that they end up in do it just to keep the logjam from getting worse,
Recently on Ventura Boulevard in Encino, California, the favorite gathering place of many children was closed to make room for yet another pharmacy in a neighborhood that already had over 25 of them.
Dozens of residents held a loud protest today outside a San Fernando Valley bookstore.
We need a bookstore, not another drugstore.
They're angry the Barnes & Noble on Ventura Boulevard in Encino is slated to close. The nation's largest bookseller will shut down the location at the end of the year. Officials say the company is closing several locations as it reevaluates its business model. A CVS drugstore has already leased the space for next year.
We do not need another pharmacy. We have pharmacy right over there, a pharmacy right over there, and over 20 within a 2-mile radius. And we've lost our bookstore, our community gathering place.
Back at home, we enrolled our foster daughter Stephanie into the local junior high. My wife worked with her counselors and psychiatrists to get her doses of Adderall and the antidepressants lowered. As hard as it was for us to admit, we could see her ability to focus waning as we decreased the Adderall doses.
Turn her down, buddy. I'm off the drugs, back with my mom, and we're ready to start our new path.
Your new life. And we're still friends, and we're like a second family.
Yes.
So
together like a family to be. Kind of makes me sad for the kids because they have to take these drugs, and the people that make them, I just don't like those people because I had to use their drugs. And the Adderall was also supposed to be helping me in school to do my work and focus, but before the Adderall, I always focused.
So before we get into talking about Stephanie and your new foster daughter, Brittany, I just want to mention that American Drug War 2 Cannabis Destiny is available on iTunes for download and viewing, and also on Amazon for viewing. So you can go out there and you can watch the whole film, not just catch these parts, and maybe get it in front of that crotchety old conservative in your family, or that, left-leaning liberal who thinks drugs are bad too. Get it in front of people who think especially cannabis, is bad for you, and let's start breaking through that wall, because that's the only way it's going to do it, through person-to-person action. And it'll be soon out on DVD. And you're also doing a little tour going around talking to people.
Yeah, I mean, I lecture universities, been doing it for years, ever since the first film came out. But we just on June 6th, we were in theaters in 17 cities all in the same night. And that's how we rolled it out. and we're working through a company called Gravitas with Warner Brothers is behind it. And so if you go to my one website, AmericanDrugWar2.com or AmericanDrugWar.com, you'll find it. There's a list. It's iTunes, Amazon, it's on PlayStation, it's on all these other VOD things, and soon it'll be on every VOD, just on your basic cable too, Cox cable, all the different cable systems. You'll be able to find it on your regular video on demand system there. But I just want to tell people, if I could do my one little plug, right now, downloading it on iTunes or Amazon and giving us a little vote rating or writing a little review really helps us in these early stages, because that's what's going to help the bigger promoters and the bigger distributors push this thing and get it in front of more eyes. So even if you've already seen the film, even if you feel like you already know everything in there, help out, help the movement out. Download it, review it, and show it to somebody that needs to see it. Like you said, pick the person in your life that's least likely to want to watch this thing, and just get them to sit there and watch it. We've designed a very short. It's only 90 minutes long. It moves really quick, and it's designed to try to change people's minds.
Sit them down with some brownies. Give it a high rating. I don't know what else I could throw in there on that. Let's talk about Stephanie.
Okay.
This is your foster daughter. You put her in the film. Very personal issue, obviously, for you. And tell us about the foster system and what it's doing to these kids out there. And now you have a new foster daughter, Brittany, if you want to go into that as well.
Right, our new foster daughter is Andrea. Brittany was Stephanie's, Brittany was Stephanie's sister that was also in the film. Well, my wife and I couldn't have children, and that's a whole other story. So we entered in the foster system, had nothing to do with making this movie. Trust me. I mean, this started long before I started working on this movie, had nothing to do with it. The movie was over here on this topic and fostering, two separate things. This little girl comes to us. We had to go through all these classes and all of this rigmarole to get indoctrinated into the foster system. And of course, every single word I've heard Alex Jones say over the years, and all these people coming from Texas, and hearing all the horror stories about Child Protective Services. It's funny because now I am in the belly of the beast. I'm with all these people. And learning a lot of good people in a bad system. A lot of these people are really, honestly, actually like a lot of these people that are caught up and working in this bad system trying to make a difference. But this young 11-year-old girl comes to our house a couple of days before Christmas, and she's just this shy, normal kid, and she seems like a completely normal kid. And then all of a sudden comes all these bottles of pills where it's nothing different than give her speed in the morning and tranquilizers at night. And we find out that all the other kids in the same group home where she was staying were on the same exact regimen. So there's 10 kids in one little home, and the more kids you can put in your home, the more money you make. If you're doing, 90% of the foster homes are doing it for the money, which is fine, because there's thousands and thousands of kids that do need homes that do have screwed up parents. It's not all just kids wrongfully being taken away from people. There are a lot of screwed up people out there that, it's a lot of gray area. It's not black and white. But this young girl, to me, didn't seem like she needed medication. Suddenly here we are having to medicate her, or they would take her away from us. And you're learning that these group homes were giving all the kids Adderall, which is speed, at 6 in the morning in order to send them off to school. And then when they get home, they give them dinner, and then they give them all the tranquilizer, and they'd all be into bed by 7 o'clock at night. And this is just a way to make everybody's jobs easier. And with Stephanie's sister, Brittany, she got suddenly diagnosed as being schizophrenic because she got into like some little scuffle with some little girl where she held a girl underwater in the swimming pool, like normal kids play, like I used to do every day. Yeah. Like you used to do every single day. I mean, my brother used to practically murder me every day in the swimming pool. And so, of course, she gets, practically put into a straitjacket, hauled off, medicated as being schizophrenic, given like a huge cocktail of crazy drugs, put into some specialty home. And what you learn is that the more problems that can be assigned to a child, in other words, this child has this record, and the more things I can check off, like violent tendencies, like, disruptive, all the more money you make as a foster parent. And not only that, but then the more caseworkers, the more social workers, the more, each one of these kids probably has like a team of 10 to 20 professionals working around them, supporting their case. And so if you come in there and you bring these kids into the system and you go, they're just a normal kid, maybe a little depressed because they got taken away from their parent. Like, what kid is not going to be depressed because you take them away from their birth parent? Like, you know, and that's what people, and that's what you learn too. You learn really quick because you go into the foster system thinking that, oh, you know, we got a really nice house and this kid's coming from the ghetto. But you know what? These kids want to be with their birth parents, even if their birth parents live in a cardboard box on Skid Row. They'd rather be with their birth parents. But it's like the system would rather drug them than make that happen. And it's a frightening situation that seems to be getting worse and worse. And when you get into it, it's not so much that the people in the system are like evil people. It's just like we've created this, we've painted ourselves into a corner as a society, and people are just being forced to act this way to keep the logjam from getting worse and worse. And it's just become a really, it's like an art, you know, it's like laws and rules that are designed 70 years ago that are still affecting kids in the foster system today. And it's a frightening system that needs to be explored more. And you know, maybe I'll even do a film completely focused on the foster system in the future. Right.
Well, I mean, you know, bottom line is, it looks like this: the government doesn't care if you're on drugs as long as you're on their drugs.
Absolutely.
If it's their drug that they're promoting and that the Rockefeller Foundation is promoting, that's A-OK. But if it's something that grows out of the ground, that you could grow yourself, that you could self-medicate, you don't need a doctor or a team of social workers to outline it and regiment it, oh, well, then there's a problem, man.
Yeah, and what they're trying to do with marijuana too is the same thing. Right now, like to me, the biggest danger in this whole movement is that if we allow this situation that's happening right now to go unchecked, pharmaceutical companies are going to tear the cannabis plant down into 20 different pills. Right. You know, so you've got a headache, you got to take this spray. You got your back pain, you take this pill. You got menstrual cramps, you do this thing, and on and on and on. And you got to have a medicine cabinet with 20 prescriptions just to equal this one plant, because they've tried to sell society on the idea that there's no such thing as a one-stop cure. It's crazy new age thing to think that this one plant can cure all these things. You got to have a separate medication for every little ailment.
Wow. Well, we'll leave it at that. This has been a great interview. Kevin Booth, American Drug War II, Cannabis Destiny. You can check it out at AmericanDrugWar2.com. We've been throwing up the website up there, the entire interview. You know, we want people to go out and see it, check it out, and we'll be carrying it here when it comes out on DVD.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys will be the first.
Great.
Absolutely. InfoWars, Alex Jones, Rob, we appreciate it so much.
No problem. It's been great. Great interview, and good luck to you on the promotion of this and your future endeavors.
And, you know, hopefully I think I'll be on Alex's radio show next week, so I look forward to that.
Sounds good. All right. You have a good day.
All right. You too. Thank you so much.
All right, and that's our show for today. Thanks to Kevin Booth for coming on, and all the great team out there helping us with the news. This has been quite a journey here at InfoWars Nightly News. We're about to start in September 1st. We'll be starting our third year of broadcasting, and we've hit some bumps along the way. We've made some improvements. We've changed things around. One thing that really helps is when you become a member of PrisonPlanet.tv, you basically fuel our ship to get us to go to the next level. Really helps us out. It's a $5.95 a month subscription fee. It helps pay for the bandwidth, the reporters, flying people around. It's a 15-day free trial, and you can share your username and password with up to 10 other people. At the same time, you could all be on watching the nightly news, watching the movies, downloading the clips. We have an MP4 download function. You can grab everything that we've made, download it, and put it out on your YouTube channel. Cut these things up, make little mashups. You know, it's all about you out there taking action. That's what we're trying to do, is provide you the tools so you can educate people in your area, because we can't educate everybody from our Central Texas Command Center. And one other way to do that, getting your subscription to this, the InfoWars magazine. This is the newest subscription. You are the target of government spying, as if you didn't know that already. And what I really like about this is, check this out right here. We have more free bumper stickers. Now, the bumper stickers are only going to the people who order it from InfoWars. We didn't have the funds to put them out in every issue out there, but you can get these. We have another section somewhere over here. There's some square ones, some right there, that have that cool looking logo in there, plus the original InfoWars logo. Lots of small ones, lots of big ones. And I just want to go to this little disclaimer here in the back where it says, let's see, right here, attention patriotic Americans and freedom lovers everywhere. Get your bumper stickers. Post these stickers in legal and lawful areas. Post these stickers in legal and lawful areas. Post these stickers in legal and lawful areas. That's what we want you to do with them. But post them anywhere that's legal and lawful. Put them on your friends' cars. Put them on your cars. Put them on your lockers if you can. Put them on your books. Just get them out there. This is the newest issue. There it is. You are the target of government spying. And every issue that we sell out of InfoWars has these stickers in them. So be sure you do that. You can sign up for a subscription. You can get a multi-pack. You can sign up to be a distributor, and we send you a stand with your first order so you can put them up in your business. You can even charge for them. If you want to charge $1, $2 for them, you know, it's up to you. We're all free market here. And with that, that's our show. We will see you here tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central. It's InfoWars Nightly News. I'm your host, Rob Dew, and we will see you next time.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.